Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Thursday, the 17th of December. It's Headfirst Only Television, Twitch Livestream number 31. Good Lord, good Lord, good Lord. Good evening to Riako Music and good evening to Array of Emotions. On tonight's show, what are we going to have for you? I am going to talk through the basics of mastering and checking loudness. And loudness seems to be a thing that is an arcane mystery that really intimidates people and confuses people. And I'm confused, so I'm going to talk through my confusion with you so that you will be confused too. But to be more sensible, Wobby and I, good evening, Wobby. Wobby and I were talking earlier about mastering because Wobby has started doing mastering stuff and wanted to talk through some stuff with me. So I said, look, why don't I just do something on the show about it? So that's what I'm going to do. There will also be new music from me because I've been busy again, because I do not know how to stop. And for movie nerds, and Wobby's not allowed to answer this because she knows the answer. What is the connection between Psychomania, the 1960s cult classic horror movie about a bike gang terrorising Kingston-on-Thames shopping centre, and, I kid you not, George Sanders and Beryl Reid, famous English comedy actress, as a couple of devil worshippers, and the BBC series of Sherlock, which you are no doubt familiar with and may or may not already know there will be a 5th series coming to your television sets shortly. What have those two movies got to do with what I get up to in here and what most of you on the chat have been getting up to over the past summer? Stay tuned, all will be revealed. Housekeeping. If you're watching this on Twitch and you're not following me, then please follow me on Twitch. It does help the algorithms. I am gradually crawling my way towards being whatever the status is where you actually start seeing benefit. And hello to Shinless62 and to Slowpick, who both followed me today. You are most welcome. Find yourself a comfy chair, grab yourself a beverage, sit down and make yourself at home. It's that kind of show. Chat are going, oh, we can all be confused together. Indeed, it is one of the missions of this show to spread confusion far and wide, but not in a fake news kind of way, just generally sort of way. Good evening to French Doggy. Hello all. The gang's all here. This is rather lovely. Yeah, there'll be also a whole bunch of stuff about gear because new updates have dropped. And no, I haven't spent any more money. I have been enjoying my new cooker, I have to say, and I'm full of curry today. But one thing that I will not be doing this Christmas is socialising, because for those of you not in the UK, you may or may not have seen this news this evening, but here in South Gloucestershire we are still at the highest level of alert or isolation or lockdown or whatever you want to call it. There were 155 new cases per 100,000 people last week, which means we're still in the most severe social restrictions tier that there is. But well done, all you people down in Bristol who have just been knocked down from tier 3, which is don't do anything, to tier 2, which is don't do most stuff and be sensible. But however it's going, wherever you are, wear a damn mask and I'll see you next week. No, that's later on. Okay, so that's the housekeeping for Twitch out of the way. Housekeeping for YouTube, because I spend an inordinate amount of time editing these shows down, which is why the shows, when they get onto YouTube, they have nice subtitles and stuff like that, but they're usually about 20 minutes shorter than the version that you are watching now on YouTube, and that's probably down to whether I've had enough coffee during the day. But I have had quite a lot of coffee and tea today, so I should be okay. Various people on the chat talking. Yeah, I saw Emmanuel Macron, the French Doggies president, has got the cocoa too, as he says. And but glad to hear that people feel knackered but super good, which is good. So I think we're all in pretty much the same boat there. Yeah, YouTube, please follow me. Oh no, you don't follow on YouTube, do you? Please subscribe on YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, even if you're not a subscriber, if you could click that little like thumbs up button down at the bottom there, that would be really helpful. If you do subscribe, you can also click a little bell button, which apparently is somewhere down there. And that will notify you whenever I post new content on YouTube. And at the moment, I'm working out producing about 3 hours of new content every week on YouTube. And that's not a thing I saw coming at the beginning of this year. In fact, I got an email from YouTube this week that said, "Congratulations on the amount of minutes of YouTube videos that you have created this year." And I sat down and figured out how much video there was of me in here waffling on and sounding completely confused, so confusing, left, right and centre. 3.88 days of solid video of me uploaded this year. That is a terrifying fact, and I say that as the person responsible for making it. So, gear, updatey things, news, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey for stuff. First of all, is this working all right? Are we on? Because I've just installed the latest update to OBS, which is what I use for streaming. OBS themselves don't do release notes or anything helpful like that, but I wandered over to GitHub because I'm a nerd and read the release notes, and it's mainly sort of streamlining stuff and making things behave in the right way when you click on them. Sadly, it does not include a fix for HDR drivers under Windows 10, so I'm still not HDRing on my screens here. I shall just have to do normal DRs instead, which I can live with. I've also been exploring the ecology of webcams. And why might that be, you might ask? Well, I'm doing a live thing on the 30th of December. I will be performing from this very chair in here on the Lockdown Live Streamers VEM 7.0 on Wednesday evening. From the way things are looking at the moment, I'll probably be on round about 5th in the evening. So not quite the headliners, although really it's not about fame or fortune or status or anything else. It's just, "Chris, do you want to go on at ... And it's like, yeah, okay. So I will be performing actual real music live in here on OBS or however else I do it, or Twitch or what. I don't know. It's all being firmed up. But as my stream's been super duper rock solid, he said rashly, for the last 5-6 weeks or so, I have decided that what I might do for the show is, and shock horror, this is a big step, is move from 720p up to high definition 1080p, 30 frames a second. Now, the trouble is about that is this camera, which is a lovely, lovely camera and a brilliant 4K camcorder. It's made by Zoom. It's a Zoom Q2N 4K, and it is literally the size of a packet of cigarettes. The only trouble is, all I've been doing with it for the past 6 months is using it as a webcam, and it's kind of really a bit of a waste. The reason it's a webcam is very simple. It's massively wide angle. It has a 140-degree wide angle lens on it. And there are very few web cameras that can cope with that I can afford. I saw one. I've been exploring the ecosystem, so I've been going online and reading all the reviews and everything like that. And they said, "Oh, this webcam X is really, really nice." And it's like, "Oh yeah, does that, does that, does that." Every box ticked. So then I went to the supplier's webpage and went, because it was $1,200. So no. However, I found yet another cheap Chinese webcam that has allegedly 130-degree webcam field of view for 20 quid. And it does 1080p, which this camera, as I just mentioned, does not. And the goal is I want to kind of get all the cameras that I can up to 1080p, which means that I will then stream in 1080p and, touch wood, fingers crossed, everything else crossed as well, that will improve your viewing experience. However, there will always be one particular camera that will stay at 720p, and that's this one. And the reason, if I just move to tripod cam and show you, is that this camera that you're now seeing the feed from is my cheat for making my audio sound as good as it does. Because if I switch to tripod cam, I don't know if you can see that, but that camera has two 1/4-inch jack / XLR audio inputs in it, which basically means I'm using this camera, which is a Zoom Q8, as my audio mixer for the stream. The French Doggy says the Zoom Q8 is no more. Oh, no. There you go. There's the Zoom Q. The Zoom Q2 is still fulfilling its purposes. But as I say, basically, I think that's a really good view of me, isn't it? I'm sure we can do better than that. So this is the Zoom Q2. The Q2 is a brilliant camera. And frankly, it's too brilliant to be wasted stuck on a magic arm over my monitors, because it does 4K. And one of my projects this Christmas is that, as you saw in the opening credits there, as you see in the Is It Form Yet show, all my pre-recorded pieces of video were created before all this happened. And the closing credits have copyright 2020. And it's going to be 2021 in a few weeks. In fact, what, 3 weeks? Good Lord, that's a terrifying thought. So, yeah, I'm going to try out a new cheap, i.e. 20 quid, 1080p webcam, which I'm going to put here. So I found one. It's even got a tripod screw thread on it, so it will fit the magic arm. All I'll need to do is just unscrew the Q2N and put the new webcam on, he said rashly. The French Doggy says, for its price, the Q2 is super good. Oh, gosh, yeah, absolutely it is. And the Q8, in terms of what it does, I mean, the fact that it takes in audio feeds from the mixer, I couldn't get the sound quality that I get in here without supermassive latency any other way, because I've tried. And the Q8, using the audio inputs on the Q8, basically means I can sidestep the big problem that a lot of live streamers using ASIO drivers with things like Ableton, for example, of getting the audio from Ableton to the webcam feed, to the live stream feed. It can be very laggy, and I don't get any lag at all because I'm doing it hardware. I'm not using software at all. It's a really, really top tip. So the Zoom Q8 is what I'm using, and this is the image that it gives is, again, because the Zoom webcam software driver only works at 720p, but yeah, it's good enough for doing a live stream. 46 days until February album writing month starts again. 46 days until we can all start applying ourselves to the challenge of writing 14 songs in the 28 days that are February 2021. And I'm looking forward to it. You're all looking forward to it. I'm sure you are. Some people have been writing songs anyway, and this let's get on to the first feature of the evening, which is a song that has been written by two February album writing month regulars, Helen's Evil Twin and Val Cox. And Wobby has been teaching herself mixing and mastering and has been downloading a bunch of mastering tools and asked me to have a listen to her mastering of Helen and Val's song. And what I thought I'd do is I would, and this is with Helen and Val's express permission, so we're not doing this off-piste, as it were. This has been agreed in advance. These are the two tools that I use when I'm mixing and mastering stuff. Let's just gently adjust that so that you can see what's going on. So on the left, Insight. Both of these plugins are made by Isotope. You drop them on the master track of your DAW of choice. Insight basically listens to your track and gives you a whole bunch of different pieces of information that you can see up there. You can have a look at it as an audio spectrum, like an oscilloscope. You can have a look at it as a spectrogram, if that is your bag. If you're doing a podcast, it will even rate how intelligible it is, which I think is scary. The French Doggy says the website for Form is not the same as 5090, right? And Ryoko Music says it's form.org. And the French Doggy says, thanks, Ryoko Music. Yeah, and the .org is important. Believe me, you do not want to go to any other whatever. It's fawm.org for February album writing month. And I hope, if you've not already signed up, that you will sign up there, where you may be joined by other famous people, including all of us, and quite possibly a certain Mr. Nick Cage. But we don't know for certain yet. That's for another show. Right, let's get on, because I'm getting sidetracked again. So yeah, Insight listens to the song that you've created. It gives you a nice little plot of how loud the song is over time. It measures loudness in something called loudness units full scale. And on most forums, if you ask people, okay, how loud should I master my stuff at? The most common answer is minus 14 dB LUFS, because that's kind of what Spotify or iTunes or a lot of the online streaming services, including, as the French Doggy has just observed, YouTube, all crunch your stuff. No matter what you've done to it, they will all crunch your stuff down to a loudness level of about minus 14 LUFS. Now, why should that be an issue, you say? if you do it how you want it, then fair play, let them get on with it. And that comes down to something called normalization. The only trouble with normalization as a default method for doing that is that the results sound horrible. And if you want to try it for yourself, if you've not already got a copy, do get yourself a copy of Audacity, which is a free platform agnostic sound editing piece of software. Drop one of your pieces of music into Audacity, hit Control-A to select the whole thing, and then in the effects and filters section of Audacity, use the normalize filter on it and be prepared to be horrified. So that process is what Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, everything else will do to your music if it is not already at about the loudness level that they're expecting. I'll put the links up in the YouTube thing because it's fascinating. Guy put white noise up and then basically spiked it at the end. It's to do with assessing 95% versus 5% of the track in terms of what going astray in terms of loudness, what triggers your tracks being squished and what doesn't. And I'm confused, but the basic gist of the webpage that I was reading earlier was saying that the different streaming services are not consistent. And this guy produced this file of white noise and then submitted it to different streaming services. And after it had been squished by the algorithms on several online sites, one version of the file was 7.5 dB quieter than another version of the file. Now, if you've ever mixed something, a 7.5 dB difference in volume levels or gain is pretty darn significant. So you kind of want to get it. You kind of want to get it right. And iZotope's Insight program is a great way of checking your loudness levels. There is a very, very good, totally free loudness check-in plugin. No, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it. Totally free, VST, AST, or whatever plugin. Again, it's plugin agnostic. So if you don't have Insight, grab yourself a copy of that and check your loudness levels. Ryako Music says, I'm super confused. My mission here is accomplished. As the saying goes, let's put the machine on it and see what we come up with Helen and Val's piece of music. Helen Val's piece of music, incidentally, I should say, is called Tell Me, and it's a nice piece of really shouty pop. So, for tonal balance control, I have selected pop, and this set of boxes is for lows, low mids, high mids, and high. So what we're looking for is for the mix to fall in these 4 frequency bands. So let's give it a go and hit play. This is called Tell Me by Helen's Evil Twin and Val Cox.
Remember when our eyes first met, the look that went between us, and we just didn't know it yet, what would come from that. Tell me that you love me, baby, tell me that you need me, tell me all the time. Tell me that you want me, overwhelm me so completely, makes me feel sublime. Remember when our lips first touched, the electricity somehow almost felt too much, but now I want more and more and more. Tell me that you love me, baby, tell me that you need me, tell me all the time. Tell me that you want me, overwhelm me so completely, makes me feel so
That was Tell Me by Helen's Evil Twin and Val Cox. And look at that. You can't really ask for, well, I mean, 0.1 out. That's pretty darn impressive. But as you can see, all right, it's now stopped listening, so the readings go all over the place. But the momentary loudness peak hit 10.7, but over the entire song, it's pretty much bang on. So good job, Wobby. That's really good. And as the French Dogie was carefully watching all the lines to make sure that they stayed in the frequency band, and they do. So again, it's not going to sound off or out of place or weird. It's going to sound appropriate to the genre. So yeah, brilliant job, Wobby. While Ableton's getting on, it'll be ages now because I've been getting carried away with the new toy, which is still a thing of absolute pleasure, which is me Native Instruments Complete Control. I noticed there have been 2 software updates to Guitar Rig 6 this week and a software update to Complete Control, although it does still do a few weird things, and I find myself sitting here going, why is it doing that? Who asked it to do that? But that's just me as a naive user getting used to the fact I've never had a MIDI controller keyboard before. In the past, when I wanted to do MIDI control, I just used my Korg, my trusty Korg M3 over here. But now I don't have to turn around anymore. I can just pull out my drawer. Pull out my drawer. Yes, indeed. Ableton is still loading. I really am beginning to think that I need faster hard disks because, oh, no, it's finally burst back into life. And here we are with, so, as I say, I've been teaching myself, and we're back to the paradox of choice. And this is something that I'm seeing a lot in both in the chat and in stuff that I'm doing, in that if you've got lots and lots of things to choose from, it becomes very difficult to make a decision and go, I'm going to do this. So limiting your decision options is really helpful as a creative tool. And that's what I've been doing with the 2 albums, the one that I did last month and the one that I am currently working on this month. Last month, it was about learning Abbey Road 1, which is a Spitfire Audio VST plugin, which I treated myself to after completing the studio upgrade. Because before I had this room looking like this, I was actually presenting the show every week from under a bed, and it was challenging to say the least. And I still bear the scars of standing up and then remembering that I am under a very substantial metal bunk bed and cutting my head open. So I'm not doing that anymore, which is kind of one of the real benefits of having a proper studio, as I now do. So last month was teaching myself how to program stuff orchestrally. This month, because I got the new keyboard, it came with rather a lot of software. In fact, I think I ended up installing 76 different new pieces of music making software as a result of the upgrade. And that's too much to deal with. So this month I have limited myself to just 2 Native Instruments plugins. The first is one called Hybrid Keys, and the second one is something called Ethereal Earth. And they both work on the same principle. They're part of the Contact Play series in that you have 2 sound sources and they can be wildly different. And the whole idea of the Play Series engine is it lets you blur the two together and blend the two together. So if I open up, say, for example, a track on here, and this is my Complete Control, which is effectively a wrapper that sits round the music making software, and that then talks to my keyboard, which I don't know if you can see on the small screen, but if I cut to the Zoom Q8, you see it's got lovely LEDs. So what it means is that I can now play that piece of software from this. And not hear anything. Why can't we hear anything? Because I haven't got it recorded enabled. That's why, because I'm an idiot. Here we go. See? This is Chris's catchphrase. The French Doggy says Chris learning one or more skills per month. Indeed, or failing to, because I think HFO TV's primary catchphrase is, and probably always will be, why isn't that doing anything? Oh, I see. So it's a quite nice blend of two pianos. Looking at the actual two sound sources on here, the A source says Studio Grand, and the B source says Dynamic 7-foot Grand. So yeah, it's just grand pianos effectively. But this month's album is about this time of year, which is why it's called Decembering. And I've been writing pieces of music about the solstice and about hibernating and about various other things. And I don't know if the folks in Europe saw this on the news, but there was lots of excitement on the news over here last week because Edinburgh got thunder snow. So of course I thought, right, that's a really good title for a piece of music. Okay, so I've got a piano. I know I'm going to use the piano for its main motif, but thunder snow, I've really got to do something that sounds appropriately thundery then, haven't I? So in fact, that's what I started with. And we're back to Spitfire audio again. I'm using an instrument, and you can pick these up. They're in Spitfire's Originals series. 29 quid each, 29 euros each. This one is called Cinematic Percussion. Gives you loads and loads of really, really sweet, dramatic, percussive effects from timps and cymbals and crashes and earthquake hits and you name it. And I tweaked things. So remember from Wobby's mastering exploits that you need to get your frequency curve sounding right. Well, that's gone out of the window for me with this app. I'm afraid so, because Thunder, I'm afraid you are going to want to really, really emphasize the low frequencies. And if you want to really, really, really emphasize the low frequencies, then I have a plugin for you that is super special sauce. And it's made by Waves. And you can probably pick it up, not guaranteeing it because I haven't checked the website, but you can probably pick this plugin up again for $29. It's called Submarine. Here it is. Looks cute, doesn't it? What it does is it effectively re-synthesizes the harmonics of your sounds and produces subharmonics. In other words, if the fundamental of your note is 50 hertz, if the main frequency of your note is 50 hertz, then most musical notes, you get the principal, the fundamental, and then you get overtones, which might be double or a third again or a quarter again, and you get this harmonic series of different overtones, and the combination of the fundamental and the overtones together creates the timbre, the texture of an individual instrument's notes, because some instruments produce very, very clear and precise harmonic series, like woodwinds, like flutes, because they're effectively, it's the physics of a vibrating tube, of standing waves in a vibrating tube and physics. However, what Submarine does is really cool. It goes behind the fundamental and produces a sort of imaginary fundamental below the fundamental that you already had. So if I just solo this track, and turn your speakers up, folks, because this is how we do thunder on HFO television. So if I just click play, how cool is that? So apologies if you've only got little speakers or you're watching this on a phone, but trust me, if you've got a subwoofer, your subwoofer will have woken up. So it's like, oh, this is good. So now I've got me thunder, and kind of I want a bit of tinkly snow over the top of it. So how did I address the tinkly snow? And if you're in Edinburgh, it would probably have turned to slush almost immediately. Went to Superior Drummer, and one of my... Now, Superior Drummer just updated, so I bet I'm now going to get... Yes, there you go. See, it's updated, and now it won't let me show you the Easy Drummer expansion that I used, but I'm using an Easy Drummer expansion called Dream Pop, which I've used a lot because it's kind of not a normal acoustic drum kit, but it doesn't at the same time sound grossly electronic. And if I solo this track, because it will actually still play, it just won't let me show you the interface, then I put, as you can see, a lot of processing on it. I used my go-to distortion effect, which is Isotopes Trash 2. Again, you can normally pick that up for like $29, or they quite often do it as, if you go to Plugin Boutique and buy anything, then at certain times of the year you will get Trash 2 as your one of two free VST plugins to download and install. It's worth getting. It is really, really, in terms of distortion patterns, it's not subtle, but it does great things to both analog synthesizers and percussion tracks. So on this, with a nice wide ping pong on it, here's, does that say tromping through the snow or the slush to you? It does to me. Ryako Music says, I don't like snow. It looks pretty, but it makes the cobblestones here really slippery. Mel and David live in a beautiful but very, very medieval Belgian city, and I can imagine cobbled streets are quite interesting to negotiate when it's been either snowing or it's very icy. But yeah, so that's got you the sort of vibe that I was going for. And because of the precariousness of walking through snow, it's not a straight 4/4 beat, it's a swing beat. And then I thought, right, I'll do a bass line on the piano with the hybrid keys, but it didn't sound beefed up enough, so I then doubled it on my other go-to not at all subtle musical instrument, me Chapman stick. So the result, and this track is not finished, but I'm kind of nearly there. In fact, I don't think there's even anything on the master at all. No. Haven't even begun mastering or mixing this, so there's not even... In fact, what I'm going to do, because this is something that I do, this is my first step when I want to mix something properly, because at the moment I'm just getting the different components together. It's like a recipe. Haven't actually put it in the cooker yet. I've just got all the ingredients in the right place, in the right combinations. Now I have to actually start the cookery side of it. And the first step in that, if I go down here to me Waves plugins, is to get a rough low latency idea of what everything's going to sound like at the appropriate LUFS levels. And the way I do that is I use something called a maximizer. And because I master for CD, I want the ceiling to be -3 dB. The threshold's normally about -6 dB. So the L1 Ultra Maximizer, and there is a free version of a sort of clone of the L1 Ultra Maximizer, which again, Wobby, I think you've got the... You can tell me what the free one is, can't you, Wobby? But what it does is it brings everything pretty much to within that -14 dB LUFS ballpark that we're looking for. And if I unsolo everything and play it back, I haven't even heard this in this form yet, because I've literally just put a maximizer on it. So let's see what this sounds like. So this is a first draft, a very, very rough and ready first draft of a track that I will be releasing on my headfirstonly.bandcamp.com album of the month, which is called Decembering, and this is called Thunder Snow. So that's my first draft of the latest track on Decembering, which is called Thunder Snow. And yeah, that mix needs work. I haven't even, what I normally do, none of the submixes have got any processing on them at all, apart from the percussion submix, because not only did I drop Trash 2 on the Superior Drummer track, I really wanted to mess things up. So on the submix itself, I am using another free plugin. Don't know if you've seen this. It regularly crops up on polls of the most useful VST free plugins to get. It's the Molot compressor. It's an emulation of a mad Russian analog compression unit, and it seriously does weird things to audio signals, and for something like this it was perfect. I love it to bits. It's not something that you use as sort of light seasoning. Molot is the culinary equivalent of super death hot sauce, and it will completely and radically change the signal that you put into it. But that's kind of what I want, and I think the proof's in the pudding, and we're back to culinary metaphors once again. But the first few times when I was actually recording things, I stopped because I was going, was that thunder? And then realised that it wasn't, it was me. So there you go. So I will be tweaking this a lot. Some of it is very hot, but, and I mean, my other instant Vangelis favourite VST musical instrument, Arturia's absolutely gorgeous imitation of a Yamaha CS80 as owned by Vangelis. And I mean, come on, as soon as I enable that synthesizer sound, and especially with the complete control, because it does velocity sensitive and aftertouch, and it's also drenched in reverb. So yeah, there's an awful lot of Valhalla Supermassive, another free VST plug. If you haven't got Valhalla's Supermassive reverb in your arsenal for your VSTs, go and get it immediately, because I do not know how I'd manage without it. It's lush, it's insane, it's, again, not subtle, but I'm not subtle. So, I mean, good Lord. Reacco Music says, I like that sound. Yeah, you think? The first time when I hit that combination of preset on the CS80 and the processing and the compression that I'd added to it, I was just like, I'm just going to sit here and play random notes for the next 25 minutes. So that's what I did. And I don't know if you can see how much I've actually dialed this back in Ableton, but it's at minus 17.7 dB, and it was still blowing through everything else that is a lot louder. So I think some judicious use of EQ and an awful lot of compression will be involved before I get to the final mastering stage. And the French Doggy just says in all caps, I need that sound. I know, right? the whole, I mean, if there is one synth that completely justifies buying the Arturia V collection, it is, for me, the Yamaha CS80. It is absolutely amazing. The fact that you also then get an emulator 2, a Fairlight CMI, a Synclavier, a Yamaha DX7, a whole bunch. You get 20 odd different synths. And so Ryako Music says, sorry, can you tell me again what that was? Okay, so it's the Arturia CS80. It's the brassy pad preset, which I think I might have tweaked slightly because there's an asterisk next to it, which means that I've probably tweaked it a bit. It's going into Ableton's just stock factory mildly aggressive, spelt with one S rather than two, compressor plugin, which again I've tweaked, so I've loosened the knee on it a bit, and then it's just dropped into Valhalla Supermassive on the send for all the sends. So yeah, the main sound is racked up, or actually dialed right back, minus 17.7 dB, but everything's going into the send, which is probably why it's running so hot. So I think what we might have to do is just dial that back to, let's say, about let's do minus 8 dB and see if that's a little bit more manageable. I love how it responds to aftertouch. It just puts a little bit more of a bite on it. As you can tell, I have been in my element with this particular track, because I'm just channeling my inner Vangelis basically and loving it. So that sounded a little bit more manageable. What else have we got on here? Well, there's a lot of piano. There's both the hybrid keys piano. And I said again, I'm limiting myself to hybrid keys and ethereal earth are the two new instruments that I'm basically incorporating in every track on this album, so I can find out what they're good at, what they're not so good at. So Ryako Music said, I really like the quiet bit in the middle. This is one of the things that I find very difficult, which is just leaving bloody gaps in things, letting the listener breathe. And I'm trying out that approach on tracks on this album, hence the quiet bit in the middle. And I'm really glad that you said you liked that bit, because that kind of reassures me that it's something that I ought to continue doing. So thank you for that. That's reassuring. But yeah, that is Thunder Snow. If I go to another track that had I started this track on Sunday? Not quite sure I can remember or not. But so I started another track at the weekend, I think it was, and this track's called Glacial. So you can see the sort of winter theme and everything. And Isotope is now once again splashing up loads of Complete Control loading messages, and we'll probably be doing so for about another minute, so I'm just going to waffle for a while it's doing that. Yeah, that whole thing of getting your ingredients together is something that I'm kind of beginning to develop a bit of a theory about composing and doing stuff in an appropriate manner, or a philosophy of coming up with the sort of stuff that I'm doing and why it all sounds like it does. And it's very, very, for me, very, very much about playing with instruments, playing with timbres, playing with textures, learning the textures of an instrument as much as learning to play the instrument itself. And it's those textures, it's those timbres that really trigger stuff for me. Or I will think of a concept like with Thundersnow and think, okay, right, now that I've got that idea for a track in my head, that's making me think of particular timbres and textures. How am I going to make the textures that I'm thinking of come out of my monitors? And a lot of that comes down to playing for inordinate lengths of time with synthesizers and with DAWs and thinking, oh yeah, well, I could probably use a really, really low drum hit and then put a lot of reverberation on it, because when it's thundering, the sound doesn't just come directly to you. It rattles around in all the clouds and sounds really cool. So, and it gets to the point where there will be reverb presets that I can remember and go, oh, that would sound like it was thundery, or that would sound like it's in a warehouse, or that would sound like it's Vangelis. So I have a sort of library of go-to ingredients that I can go, yes, if I'm going to make this particular form of pizza, I'm going to need that hot sauce and that sort of olive and that sort of cheese. And kind of this is exactly the same sort of approach. It's basically audio cookery. Now there's an idea for a podcast, if ever there was one. Audio cookery. What flavors are you dealing with this week? Now that we're done sidetracking, Ableton has loaded my other piece of music, what I have been working on. I mean, this is how bad it's got. I've even been editing the color scheme on my Ableton sets. And I was today years old before I discovered that there's a little option there where if you change the color in the track title box, you can then say assign track color to clips, and it will recolor all of your clips at the same time to the color you've chosen there. Guess who for the last 10 years has been painstakingly clicking on every clip in every track where I changed colour and then manually selecting the colour to change it? How long have I been an Ableton user now? 12 years? It's sad. I know it's sad. But this track does have profound amounts of Valhalla Supermassive on it once again. I tweaked it from when I showed it you last time. There is guitar now. And yes, I definitely haven't played you this version. So this is me, again, trying to leave gaps, but then weakening at the last moment and wanting to drop a David Gilmour guitar solo into the middle of it. And this track is called Glacial, so enjoy. So that's Glacial. That's track, I don't know, 7-ish for my forthcoming album, which I'm going to try and finish off by Christmas Eve, which will be called Decembering, and that will be available on headfirstonly.bandcamp.com. Pay what you want. That's what I'm doing with these. These are as much a learning experience for me as they are for anything else. And again, I mean, there's an orchestral submix in this. Who saw that coming? Back in the first half of the year, Spitfire Audio released an orchestral library called BBC Symphony Orchestra that was recorded at Air Studios Meadowvale Studios, I beg your pardon, Spitfire, was recorded at Meadowvale Studios, and it is a VST plugin that has the BBC Symphony Orchestra as a download. Not only that, but Spitfire offer the base model of that VST plugin for free. Absolutely gratis. It's a full orchestra. You can do proper orchestral arrangements in a VST plugin that you fill out a questionnaire on the Spitfire Audio website, and 2 weeks later, if you install the Spitfire Audio app on your computer, it will install the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover package, which is about, I think it's about 300 meg of instruments, and you can start composing and writing orchestral music. And it has changed my entire musical outlook. I'm doing stuff now that if I'd had the opportunity to play the me of even 2 years ago, the sort of stuff that I've just played you then, it would have floored me completely. Yeah, I can't convey enough what an eye-opener just getting that free package, the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover package from Spitfire Audio, has had on my musical adventures. And that brings me to the answer to what the connection is between what I'm doing in this room and these two discs. So, Psychomania, or as it's known in the United States, the Death Wheelers, is about a bunch of motorcycle hoodlums who are talked into killing themselves by the protagonist's auntie mum, which is Beryl Reid, the Beryl Reid of comedy fame, who in this plays a Satan worshipping toad cultist. Yeah, who knew? So the protagonist in this is played by an actor called Nicky Henson. Nicky Henson was married to Una Stubbs, who plays Mrs. Hudson in the BBC adaptation or reimagining of the Sherlock Holmes stories. So Una Stubbs and Nicky Henson were married, and they had a son whose name is Christian. And Christian Henson is one of the co-founders of Spitfire Audio, which, because he mentioned his father died this time last year, and I was watching one of the Spitfire Audio videos on YouTube this week, because they are profoundly helpful in coming to grips and managing to make something coherent out of something as complex as an entire symphony orchestra. And he mentioned his dad, and it was like, hang on a minute, Henson. And then he'd mentioned his mum, but not by name, and it was like, nah, couldn't be that Henson, because a friend of mine has actually worked with Nicky Henson in the past, and yeah, he has a story to tell about that. And so I went on Wikipedia and said, no, it couldn't possibly. Oh, it is. And movie nerd me having both of those discs in my collection, found that just profoundly satisfying in an extremely movie, nerdy, geeky kind of way. But as I say, Christian's company, Spitfire Audio, has completely changed the way that I approach music in here. I'm doing things now that I couldn't have done 6 months ago, let alone 6 years ago. It's extraordinary, and I will no doubt continue to support Spitfire Audio and their endeavours in the future. But Spitfire Audio do an awful lot of stuff for free, not just the BBC Symphony Orchestra stuff. And the reason that I've been blathering on about this is because one of the fundamental pieces of music on that track, which is called Glacial, is this. It's one of several pianos that I'm using, and this one is a Labs plugin. So again, if you download the Spitfire Audio app from the Spitfire Audio website, strangely enough, the Spitfire Audio app has a tab in it which just says Labs, all caps, Labs. And Labs is Spitfire Audio's kind of R&D development, wing it, strange, blue sky thinking approach to music. And what they tend to do is make virtual instruments of found sounds or sampled musical instruments like pianos and stuff. And the one I'm using here is a beautifully soft piano. In other words, they've put felt, or in some cases even more obstructive material in between the hammers in the piano and the strings to muffle the sound. So if I just play you the soft piano, I've just got it. If I just solo it, whoops, there we go. This is what the isn't that gorgeous? So coupled with a much more sonorous piano, which again we're getting a bit of a Spitfire fanboy vibe here. Another one of Spitfire's little 29 quid jobs is the Olivier Patrice Vader set of musical instruments, and Olivier provides a number of treated pianos, including this one, which is the Endless Glacier piano. And higher up, so again, gorgeous textures, and all the Labs plugins, which you can download in the app and install on your DAW. They're all free, which has to be applauded, because they're not just little one-shots that you might occasionally find a use for. They're all seriously usable working instruments, and I love them to bits. So those are kind of the bits and pieces that I've done since Sunday. Ryako Music says, I don't even know how you managed to do all the things. It comes basically of not being very well, and through ill health I've now not been working for 18 months. It's a year this week that I got diagnosed with a number of health issues to do with my kidneys, and I'm still absolutely no further towards getting either condition sorted out. I don't see any chance of me having surgery to fix things before COVID is a thing of the past. And quite frankly, that suits me fine, because I do not want to be in a hospital in the current health situation. Why would you if you can voluntarily avoid it, even if it means continuous discomfort, which I can manage with occasional shots of ibuprofen or Cote-Durone. You pays you money and you takes your choice. So I have a lot of time on my hands at the moment, and have done so for the whole of this year. And doing this stuff is kind of what keeps me sane. It's something that I can fix on, and to have a goal of basically just making stuff that makes life a little easier for everybody else. I've said on this stream before that I'm there's so much anger and so much hate and unpleasantness in the world at the moment that I took the decision this year. I do not want to add to it anymore. And with the Dalek Bob clip that I put on YouTube on this stream on Sunday, I got a ping from YouTube, and somebody had made a comment, and the first line of the comment was, "That really made me smile." I thought, yes, finally I'm beginning to turn the corner and make this happen, really. And then I read the rest of the comment, and the rest of the comment said, "You can smile too if you call this number, and you can be making $6,000 a week by..." And it was multi-level marketing spam, at which point I was just crushed and had to go out for a walk. I had to just go AFK for a few hours, because, yeah, that's the kind of... And to the script kiddie who keeps on sending me bogus invoices infected with viruses, it ain't gonna work. I've worked in InfoSec. I know how things go. So go and bother somebody else, please. Just go away. So, and Ryako Music says, "Oh Lord." Such is the world we live in. I will continue my efforts to reduce the level of suck, or at least tip the balance a little bit back towards the nice end of the spectrum. And that's what I'll be doing for the rest of the week, really. So, yeah, I have to finish this album off by, well, it's next Thursday, isn't it? So let's say that on next Thursday's show, the target is that I will once again publish the album on Bandcamp live on the show. So I've got a week to finish off the tracks that I've already started and come up with 5 or 6 other ones. Actually, it's 4 or 5 now, because I've been working. So I'll be doing that this time next Thursday. I'll be back here making a fool of myself once again on Sunday night, doing the February album writing month. Is it form yet? FAWM, you see, is it form yet show. Ryako Music says, "But there's a Nigerian prince who is offering money, and you only have to send some money to receive the larger amount of money." The one that I really liked, and I was very tempted just to write an email back saying, fair play, this is top marks for invention, was the Nigerian astronaut who was stuck on the ISS and couldn't raise funding to get home, as if that was a thing. But Ryako Music says, "It's the opportunity of a lifetime." Indeed it is. It's an opportunity to make somebody else rich by giving them the money that I don't have. And if I ever found out who put my name on an email list for property investors, I will be having some stern words with them, because the amount of junk mail I get for exciting residential opportunities in Hull is beyond me. It really is. But let's not focus on the negative. Let's focus on the positive. I hope that you've been inspired by this to go and play with some musical plugins. If you've got the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover package, make some orchestral music with it. Drench it in Valhalla Supermassive, which is a free download for your reverb, and make it sound like it's Vangelis at the bottom of the biggest cave in the whole of the world. And just have fun making music and share it with me. I want to hear your stuff. I want to see what you guys are doing. So, yeah. Let's try and make this wretched year go out on a bit of good stuff and reduce the stuck. Reduce the suck to some extent by just making music, bringing joy into the world. And if you can't find joy, there's always pizza. But until Sunday at 2100, I am going to love you and leave you. I've enjoyed your company this evening. Thank you for hanging out. Ryako Music says, it's okay, I get Viagra ads. Oh dear. Yes, I have finally even put up a Christmas tree downstairs and put lights on it. So I am feeling slightly less curmudgeonly than I was last month. And I hope that you can get through the rest of the week without being too curmudgeonly yourselves. But whatever you're doing, wear a damn mask. They do make a difference. And stay safe, stay sane, and above all, stay well. And I will be seeing you again, I hope, on Sunday night. Until then, look after yourselves.